Hey guys, it's Ben Blackman with One Focus Marketing, and thank you for joining me today with this last video in the series over 40 and overwhelmed about entrepreneurship. And we're going to be talking about content and how to get, how it's easy to get overwhelmed with content. This will be the last post in the series. I did have another one I was going to do, and then I realized I might be giving out too much content, so I thought maybe I'll take my own advice and kind of cut the content down a little bit. So I just kind of wanted to share with you real quick that this series has been very interesting because normally if I said I was going to write 5 or 6 blog posts and videos and whatever, no problem. I'd just hammer those out and be done fairly quickly. These have not worked out that way. I have had all kinds of issues, from technical issues to weather issues, timing issues. It's just been really kind of crazy. And I don't know if it's one of those situations where the universe is trying to tell me, hey, you don't need to be doing this, just move on, or if it's a situation where the universe is saying, hey, you know what, you need to plow through this and push through and make it happen. So I'm going to assume it's the latter part and go ahead and just kind of keep pushing forward and get this out there. I don't want to give up. So, and sometimes that's what it takes. And most of the time when people don't succeed as entrepreneurs, they're really just this close from making it all happen. They don't push forward, and it's tough. Sometimes it's tough to know when to change directions or do something else. And I've made those mistakes as well. So anyway, I'm really excited to get this part out, and I'm going to pose a couple of questions to you at the end, and then we'll get to that in a moment. So let's just talk about content. And content, as we all know, it's overwhelming. There's just so much of it, and much of it's really good. I hear a lot about the bad content that's out there, and that's true. But if I look at it from the perspective of there's also a really significant amount of good content, that's tough to weed through. You can't really, it's really difficult to go through all of it. And as we know, multitasking and trying to do too many things at once, or even more than one thing at a time, really is not possible. I mean, you really lose your productivity when you try to do that. So what I'm going to suggest to you is you follow what I call the principle of 3. And what the principle of 3 is I suggest that you look at all your lists, and I'm talking about like your email list, newsletter lists, podcasts, YouTube channels, whatever, and you pick out the 3, just 3 out of each that you cannot live without. Now, when I said that to you, if you started to freak out a little bit, then you really need to cut it down to 3, okay? Because thinking that you can't live without the others is really not true. So the best way to do this is to make a spreadsheet and list them all out, and pick the 3 that you gotta keep. Make notes about all of them, about what each of them provides, what value they give to you. You're going to find a lot of them don't really give you any value, but there's going to be some that really do, and you may want to circle back to them later. Well, you'll have them saved in this spreadsheet, so you're not going to lose them. All right, that's why I had you make the spreadsheet. But I think what you'll find is simply that you'll have those 3 in each category, and you'll just stay with those, and you won't even worry about the spreadsheet that you have. Now, are you going to miss out on something? Of course you are, and we all know that, but you can't cover everything anyway. And if you're thinking that somehow having more content is better, I would argue that if you can't implement it into your business and make it usable, it's not really helping you anyway. So even if you got the content, if you can't use it or put it into a usable format, it's almost useless. Intentions are always good, like, well, I'll come back to it later, or I'll put a note in here and I'll come back to it and use it later, and that's all great, but in most cases it doesn't seem to work out that way. Now, part of the reason I'm telling you this is because when you're a new entrepreneur, you're especially overwhelmed because you have other things to worry about than content. So make sure you pick out the 3 in each that are really going to grow your business. Now the next thing is let's just talk about, and we're going to do the principle of 3 in several categories, but I'm just going to kind of give you examples in that, and then one other one is let's just say marketing. So let's say you're going to start marketing your business. Well, you don't want to go ahead and try to learn about, Facebook and Twitter and billboard advertising and direct mail and, just on and on and on and on. You just don't want to do that. That's just not, you can't. So you're going to pick two or three maximum, okay, of those, the ways you want to market, and you have to know that those are ways that you can reach your audience. And what I mean by that is you don't want to use a Facebook ad if you're selling commercial equipment. I mean, that's not where your audience is. So you have to know where your audience is and then learn those marketing tools or those marketing areas, and just pick two or three and really become an expert at all of them, all three of them. Now once you've done that, you can branch out a little, but by that point you'll probably have some assistants or virtual assistants or something like that, and they can help you with that, and you don't have to get so far into detail with it. So just remember, those are the two things, or a couple of ideas, and you can apply that principle of three across all your entrepreneurial life. Really, is that you just don't, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself, and it's just too easy to get there, and there's more content coming out every day. So pick the three and focus and use, and just go ahead and move forward with those. Now, one other thing I want to kind of bring up is as marketers, we tend to lose focus easily, or a lot of us tend to get distracted with the grass is greener, shiny object syndrome, whatever you want to call it, falling in the rabbit hole. I usually call it all three of those, actually. Principle of three again. So what I want to kind of impart to you real quick and leave you with is, do you remember the movie City Slickers? If you haven't seen it, you probably should, but there's it's got Billy Crystal in it, and Billy Crystal, he plays this guy named Mitch, and he's talking to this ranch hand named Curly. And when he's talking to Curly, Curly's like this real tough guy, but Mitch is talking to him about the meaning of life, basically, and he asks Curly, or as they're talking about it, Curly says, hey, life is about this, one thing. And Mitch is like, oh, okay, well, what's the thing? And Curly's like, well, that's what you got to figure out. It's about the one thing. If you just focus on that and worry about that, everything else is a piece of cake. And that's true as an entrepreneur. You focus on the one item you're going to be just the best at. And once you get that out there, great. Then you can have other items come in and have other things, but you focus on the one item. And so I'm not saying that you're always going to be, or there's not going to be course corrections, because there are. Meaning, maybe you're going to sell marketing services to psychologists, and while you're doing that, you find out that, hey, psychologists, they're not really a good group, because they don't, the ability to pay for them is, their profit margins are so low you can't really do it effectively. So you're going to switch, and you find out that, hey, it really is good for podiatrists, so you do it for podiatrists instead. Well, that's okay. I mean, you're shifting course there because you determine that your market's not going to work out. But what I am saying is that you really have to do a laser-like focus on what you want to achieve and accomplish. Without that, you're going to end up being a jack of all trades, and I have been, and that does not work. I don't know anybody it does work for, actually. So I'm really excited to hear about any successes that you have. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. We may put you on a podcast, or do a guest blog or something like that. But I really just wanted to say thank you so much. And again, sorry the screen went out. I told you I've had these technical difficulties. It's just been crazy. Anyway, but you push forward, right? Even if you have difficulties just like that, even though that was minor, you push forward. But reach out. Stay in touch with me. Love to hear about anything that's going on with you. Even if you think it's something small, don't worry about that. Send it to me, and maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. The worst thing I could ever say would be no, right? And that's so don't hesitate to stay in contact with me and let me know how it's going. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this and reading the blogs. I really appreciate it.